Okay, we're getting ready to open a front clip. I kind of set it up like this because this front clip is hard to open. I opened it once, but it's kind of hard to open. Let me explain why. Both sides of the lid are unlatched right now. The lid flexes so much when you go to pick it up. You'll see that when I try to open the front clip, you'll see that one side will come up a lot further than the other one. The other one will still be down where it is right now. It's got about 5 inches right here, and it's still not picking up on the other side. Even if you try to wiggle it back and forth, it's not picking up. So I'll go over to the other side. And if you go to pick that up, it's still not coming up. And this is up 5 or 6 inches. And we're going to try it like this. It's still not coming up. As you can see, you almost need 2 people to open this thing, but I brought along a 2x4. It's a piece of wood. Hold on a second. Now, I haven't tried that before on this car, but it should work. Here we go. Now, I hope you saw that good enough, but right now the front clip's open. This is the stock Fiero hood support that held the stock Fiero hood open, and they have it on here. They got a couple of pieces of steel, fiberglass to the hood here, and then they have this hinge support holding it. You know, it's not the best of the world, but it's okay. I'm going to go over to the other side. But standing here, you can see there's a whole lot of flex. This thing is not. That's why it was hard to open, is because you can't pick up on one side without the other side. The other side won't pick up. And if you had one person on each side, you could probably open it. But I don't know how much, you know, I don't like that. I don't like having to drive a second person. But anyway, whatever. The 2x4 helped us out in that situation. And then here's the area where the latch would be latching into. This is kind of hokey. It's kind of a screwed up way of doing it. But it's functional. You know, some builders, you know, each one has their preferences. That's not the way I used to do it. And on the front clip, you know, this front clip is only maybe 2 layers of fiberglass thick. And there's a lot of flex in it. And you will get some flex with a piece this big, even if it's done properly. But this one really needs some steel inside of it to reinforce it. And like I said with the rear clip, it's really hard to put steel inside to reinforce something that you can't lay back on the mold. When you're reinforcing it, you want to try to keep it in a position. You want to be doing the reinforcement when the thing is in the position that you want it to be in while you're doing it. And you see with this flex, the only way to have this flex out of it when it's being reinforced is to actually lay it inside a mold so that it supports that thing the way it was when it was originally made, so that you can reinforce the stuff. You know what I mean? It's just a preference of mine, I guess. It's the only way to know that you're going to get it right. And then on this side here, you can see this side here stays one place. The other one will go up and down pretty easy. I've done these GT or these F40s before. I've had the molds, I told you that. On mine, whenever we had a problem lifting the front clip, you could always do that thing where I reached across. I held one side and reached across towards the center to lift it. That usually works on these. Whenever you run into one of these that's flexing, that usually works, but it didn't work on this one. Okay, I've talked enough about that. Let's talk about this front clip. These vents and stuff in here are held in with some kind of Bondo. Kind of like the rear. Back in the rear there was Bondo in there holding the screens in, but they didn't bother to paint this Bondo. It's still off color. And it's got 300ZX headlights. The 300ZX headlights on my first F40 kit I built it with 300ZX headlights. Didn't like them because you can't really aim them. I actually, on that first car, I drove it for a year or two, and then I took the 300ZX lights out and I did my own F40 looking pop-up headlight doors and driving light windows, if you will, like the original car had, and it worked out so much better. But that's not what we got here. And if you'll notice on the Fiero chassis, one of the original Fiero headlight mechanisms is still in the car from when it was built with this body on it, evidently. And over on the other side, just on the other side of that white tank, is where the right side headlight mechanism was in the car. So they didn't even remove this mechanism, even though it's not functional. When I used to do my F40s, we would take this headlight mechanism, move it outboard to where it lined up with where we needed the pop-ups to look. When I did those pop-ups on mine, I had pop-ups that and covered driving light windows, pockets, if you will. And I would move this headlight mechanism over to get it in the right place. And this is the mechanism I would use for the pop-up headlights. Same mechanism, but I would have the headlight door right in the car. I'm going to insert a couple of pictures in this video, right in this area, that show some of the instructions that were with my kit, if I can find those pictures. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time looking for them, but if I can find them, I'm going to show you those. And then the rest of this stuff that's in the front end here is pretty much stock Fiero stuff. I mean, you still have the Fiero little donut spare tire. I can tell you what, you're never going to use that because there's no way you're going to take say an 8-inch wide custom wheel that cost you $3,000 for the wheel and tire and let them lay on the side of the road while you drive home on that little thing. You're not going to do that. It don't happen because there's no place to put it inside the car unless you put it on the passenger seat. Then you'll have to have the interior fixed up again after you get all nasty from that. And this car is not going to cool very well. It still has a stock Fiero radiator in it. Okay, I'm going to close this front clip and we're going to finish up the tour. Okay, you might as well watch me close it, I guess. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of this. These are the 300ZX headlights again. The problem I found with aiming them was that you can't, once they're in the car, you're committed to however aiming you have it. So when you go to install them into the car, you have to get them in just, let me see if I can get this camera back far enough you can see. You have to get them in just the right place so that they're aimed in the right direction when you're done. Because see, this curves, and the further down you mount it, the further down the light beam is. If your beams are too high, put bigger wheels on the back. And that'll re-aim the headlights. Now on this front clip, let's take a look at it. Yeah, you have to excuse me, with this sunlight out here, I can't even look in the viewfinder and see anything you're looking at, so we're going to go over this. Okay, along this edge here we have some more of those spider cracks that I was talking about. We have another spider crack looking thing here, although it does look a little different. Don't know what's the deal with this one here. Okay, we're going to look at the nose in a minute. In this NACA duct over here, we have spider cracks in this area. You can see some pretty bad body work up in here, but I only see a spider crack right here in the corner on this one. On this one, the body work isn't a whole lot better, but you got two big spider cracks, one on each side of this. Over here on this outside here, you got some spider cracks right through here that looks like somebody tried to paint over to cover them up. Got a ill-fitting headlight here, probably from being out in the sun a lot, because this car was in Florida and California before that. It's got a California tag on it, license plate on it. Alright, so now we get to the biggies. Up here, this is massive. It's a massive spider crack that goes all the way through here, right underneath my hand. You can, I don't know if you can see it. Like I said, it's hard to see what this camera is getting, but I'm trying to give you a little bit of angle on it. And then we have some spider cracks and some paint blistering up here. And another spider crack up here. These things are really hard to get out. You don't know, you can sand the hell out of them and sand them down and then do the repairs to them, and 6 months after you put paint job on, they come back. It's really hard to get these out. Alright, we're going to talk about the nose of the car for a minute. Like I said, I've done some of these F40s. In fact, I think I've done about 8 or 9 of them. And they're real pain in the butt as far as keeping them cool. To get air through, now this thing has a stock radiator. Typically on my V8 cars I put a bigger radiator in, so stock radiator in this thing isn't really bothering me if we're doing a V8 swap, but this car already has a V8 in it, so it should have had a bigger radiator put in. Even if you don't have this front license plate on the car, this car, when it's going down the highway at 60, 80 miles an hour, is not going to cool very well. Because there's no airflow to the radiator. There's nothing forcing the air into the radiator. What it does is when it's going down the road without that plate that's on there, the air would just go around it's just going to go around the radiator. Air is going to go to the direction of least resistance, and it's going to go around the radiator and sometimes even come in from the back. So your radiator fan isn't going to address the air coming in from the back, except to keep recirculating that same air through the radiator. And the air is going to flow around the car, around the radiator, and out through the wheel wells, whatever. Same thing goes for this plate that's on the front. There's no way that I would let you have a car with a plate that's mounted like that. And the reason is because if you ever seen a boat go through the water, it leaves a wake behind it. Same thing happens when this thing goes through the air. It leaves a wake behind it. In other words, right behind this plate is the radiator. And if you ever notice, the wake behind your boat gets wider the further away from you get from it. Same thing here. Further away you get from this plate is the radiator behind it, and there's a wake behind it of low pressure air, because the air is hitting the plate and going around it. So there's it's like holding your hand up in front of a fan. Behind your hand there's very little air moving behind your hand, because the wake of the air going around your hand is creating a low pressure area. So this car, probably the reason the guy was selling it is because it probably ran hot going down the road, because it didn't have a big enough radiator, and it didn't have any ductwork or anything to force the air that comes through the nose of the car into the radiator. And both of these things are missing on this car. Something's got to be done for it, because if you're going to try to drive it in 100-degree weather, you're going to need all the advantages you can get to keep it cool. You got to get airflow through the radiator, not around it. You got to block it off so that the air can't go around it. It's forced to go through the radiator. All right, this is the engine compartment. Not really going to talk a whole lot about the engine compartment, but I want to talk. And this is as good a thing to look at as any, I guess. We're dealing here with the V8 swap. This is using one of my kits for this engine swap. One of my kits that I make for the small block Chevy. It's not the same kit as I would use for an LS engine, but it's one of my earlier kits for the earlier engines. The engine compartment is really sloppy. The wiring is really poor, if you will. But all that stuff will probably be fixed, will be fixed at some point when we do the engine swap. But they have some things hooked up on here that are not done right. So, when we put the other engine in, we'll do it right. The engine, I did get it started the other day. Had a hard time getting gas up to the carburetor. I had to replace the starter, put a new starter on it, because one that was on here was not the one that's recommended with my kit, and there was a major problem with that starter falling apart. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into that starter. It's gone. The engine, when you start it, you can start it with the key, in the steering column. However, you can't shut it off. When you go to turn the key off, it doesn't shut off. And then I discovered, so the engine, when I got it back here, and the engine kept running when I shut the key off, took the key out, it's still running. And then I found a switch underneath the dashboard, a toggle switch, that you flip the toggle switch and it shuts it off. I don't know who came up with that idea or why they came up with that idea, but probably not going to have that way when we get done with this thing, when we get done doing an engine swap to it. But it's kind of funny. And there's some funky stuff going on, The thing has a really, really bad oil leak, and it is leaking water someplace. But those things are things that we'll be working on when we're swapping the engine. Those will probably be cured. They'll be cured, or the car won't leave. I would like to talk to you a little bit about licensing. This car has a Florida license plate on, or not Florida, a California license plate on it, and it's expired. It's expired in 2018 in April of this year. but I don't know what the title is, but there's no way we're going to be able to do test driving on this car without either a dealer plate, which my buddy has a dealer plate, but when he has a dealer plate, he does the driving. Nobody else can be driving the car like me, which, you know, he's kind of strict about that, and I guess the state is strict about that too. So the only driving we're going to be able to do to testing this thing is with his plate on it. And it was the same way with the Lamborghini, the black Lamborghini, and that red Porsche that just left here. So, you know, we can work around that, I guess. But the car has a California plate. I don't know whether the title you guys got is a California title or a Florida title, since you bought it out of Florida. Just bringing that up. We're going to go take a look at the interior, and then I'm going to edit this thing into a video I can post on YouTube and you guys can watch. Okay, we're getting inside the car. The only way to really show you around the car is to get inside it. Oh, by the way, the windshield is going to have to be removed. It doesn't look like the windshield's broken, unless it's broken underneath this decal. But the rubber around the windshield is coming out, which means whoever put it in didn't do a very good job. And but this rubber right here has to be back in there. So windshield probably going to have to come out to fix this. But anyway. Wow. Hard to sit down when you don't have both hands to use. Inside the car, we can see there's a gauge way over here for, looks like water temperature. I didn't really run the thing enough the other day to find out if water temperature gauge even works. But these pieces in here, I would say this interior was done probably at least 10 years ago. And it's not all that great. The only thing I see that you guys will probably like are the pedal pads. They are the aluminum ones with red trim. Power window switches. You see this back here on the back end of the power window switches. These switches are probably original switches. They should be replaced. They look like hell. But most likely replace a whole lot of this stuff in here. The shifter works. Doesn't work bad, and doesn't look bad either. The shifter is straight stick. It's what's called a Rodney Dickman shifter, and it's pretty good as far as the shifter is concerned. Problem is we're going to be replacing the shifter when we do the 6-speed, but we can keep this piece here, the shaft, and so it'll look just like it is now, hopefully with a better interior around it. The mirror is one of these wide-angle racing mirrors, which takes a little bit of getting used to, and you do, like I'm looking in the mirror right now and I can see my hand moving up and down. It's reflected in the back window right here. So you can see what's inside the car, and you can see the engine. If you right in this area here is the red distributor that's on the engine. So that's not so bad. The visors and stuff are junk. The sun visors are junk. The windows, they go up real slow and they go down really slow. But there is a kit available that you can buy that's supposed to speed up the windows. I haven't actually used one, but I understand it works pretty good. And there's a whole lot to show you about the interior. The headliner is really, this is a T-top car. These T-top panels right above you, they're removable. But typically of the T-top cars, the headliners in these things are lacking in quality, if you will. So this is going to be a little bit marginal. The piece that's on here is black right now, and it's not that bad, but it's probably not going to get a whole hell of a lot better. But I don't know if the T-top seal. There are seals there, but there's no way to test them right now to see how well they seal. But you don't get rain that often, any more often than we do. The hardware pieces appear to all be here, which is good. These pieces on the corners right here for the T-tops. Typically, if you have a T-top Fiero, at least one of these things is either missing or broken. They look like they're all here, and I can't tell for sure, but don't look like they're broken. But other than that, you can. I'm just doing the interior video so you can see what you have. And then you have some speaker right here in the middle. Like I said, this looks like it was done 10 or 12 years, maybe 14 years ago. And that switch for shutting off the car when it's running is right here. It's kind of cute. Anyway, this is what we have. I'm going to edit this video into one video, put it up on YouTube, and send it to you. This thing does have an alarm system on it, but I don't know how it works. And I'm pretty sure the alarm itself is shut off, unplugged, or just not on the car. But the doors are self-locking under some circumstances. And then right up here, the emergency hazard flashers. They're flashing right now when you push this in. And when you pull it out, they're not flashing, but this screw is not really the piece that's supposed to be on here. There's supposed to be a better looking piece on there. Anyway, and I'm not seeing, yep, we don't have any interior lights unless we start pushing buttons, evidently. Oh, we do have those 2 interior lights. There's no lights when you open the doors. Typically these lights here in the middle go on when you open the doors, but they're not coming on. I'm not sure why yet. And I haven't turned on the stereo system. It's probably not going to be anything you care about anyway. Alrighty. We'll get back to you. It's red carpeting in here, by the way. That is actual red carpeting. No stock Fiero had red carpeting, but you can buy red carpeting from a guy in Florida that does interior stuff for Fieros. You can buy red carpeting. And this also has red carpeting on the lower part of the door panels, which is kind of interesting. Whoever did this tried to do it right. They just, it just looks so old. And they say that the Speedo doesn't work. I really can't tell you, but it sure doesn't look like it works. Not sure about any other gauges, but most likely to replace the interior, you're going to replace the gauges too. Alright, that's enough for me in Las Vegas, Nevada. Signing off. Well, I guess I got one more thing. Forget that signing off thing. If a guy goes to replace the power mirror or the power window thing with a better system, which I recommend, we're going to have to take the door panels apart. And I just realized that the door panels look like they're only held on with one screw, because door panel wiggles. Watch this. Yeah, it moves in and out. Same thing on the other side. So the door panels are not on here very well anyway. I guess that's good or something. I don't know. Don't know if that's good or bad.